Hello and welcome to this Houdini Procedural modeling tutorial. In this lesson we're going to build a complete surveillance style camera module. So we will starting from a single box and turning it into a fully detailed production ready asset. We'll begin by designing the main camera body, a simple parameter box that we will shape using groups, PolyExtrude and the global bevel controller. So we can easily adjust proportion and edge softness at any time. My name is Radu and I'll guide you step by step through every node and every design decision that went into this camera. And let's start by adding a geo node. Let's rename to camera. We begin by laying down the fundamental geometry that forms the foundation of our object. Let's add the box node and let's define the initial dimension and let's set for size 3.7 and for size I 0.9. Next, let's add the bounding box and we will adjust the position. Let's add the MatchSize node and we will adjust the position for I axis. So for justify I we will set the minimum. So we'll keep this position. Next we'll group the front and the back of our box, and after that we'll delete these two faces. So let's add the group node. And for group type we'll leave primitive because we'll group the primitives, and let's deactivate base group and we'll enable the keep by normals. For the direction here let's set 0 and here 1, and let's set spread angle for example to 15. So we have this face grouped, and let's group the opposite side. Here we have a parameter include normals matching opposite direction. So we have these two faces in one group. Let's rename the group to delete. And now by adding the delete node and in the group parameter selecting the group delete, we have this. Now we will add a smooth rounded edges to the geometry. So let's add the poly bevel. And for distance let's set 0.2. Next, divisions let's set to 4. Now let's continue. We will fill these holes created by delete geometry. So let's add the polyfill. Let's set single polygon. Why we used this and why we deleted first the faces, after that added here, because if we don't delete the faces we have this geometry, and next we'll need to select this manually and delete or select again by normals, or select groups manually to keep the same shape. Selecting manually edges, it's not about procedural, so this is why we delete first faces and polyfill, and we have this. So let's move next. Now we need to separate the front of the camera, because here we will model the camera lens. Here we'll create some additional parts for camera body, and let's group first. Let's add the group node. Let's rename to the face. We base group we will disable and enable the keep by normals. Let's set 15 and include normals. Here 0, here 1. So we need these faces. Let's deactivate this because we need for camera lenses just this part. So we will deactivate the include normals. Next, let's extrude this face. Let's add PolyExtrude, sorry, face here. Okay. Now here we'll select face group, and for the inset parameter let's set 0.12, and we will activate the front group and side group. Next, let's add another PolyExtrude node. So here we can see our groups. So extrude front, and in this PolyExtrude node we'll use this group. So here we'll add minus 0.035. So we have this detail. Here again we'll create front group and extrude side group. Next, let's add a null node. Let's rename to base, and also I'll add a color. With this null node we just mark the finish of this base shape generation. Next, let's create the front frame. So let's add the split node, and we'll move in this direction. For this split node we will split the group extrude front. We will just isolate this. So let's set extrude front here. Now we'll define the boundary for the glassy element. So let's add the PolyExtrude node, and for inset let's set 0.01, and we will deactivate the output front group. Now we will extrude this result slightly outwards, providing the thickness for the glass frame. So let's add the PolyExtrude node, and we'll set the distance parameter to 0.05. And let's add the null node. So let's rename to glass frame. Now we will isolate the side panels. So let's add the split node, and here let's in the group let's select the extrude side. Now we need to refining the selection to isolate the top faces. So let's add the group node. Now we need to be more specific. We want to work to top facing portion of these side panels using keep by normals option. It's a robust way to select surface based on their orientation. Let's set spread angle to 50, so maybe to 18, and we'll choose y-axis, and here we add 0, and let's rename to top face. Okay. Next, let's add the delete node, and we simply select here top face, select non-selected. Let's add the PolyExtrude node. So now we will use negative distance for this parameter. Using this we are pushing into model surface. So here you see, and after that we will use the Boolean to cut the shape. Let's set for the distance minus 1.2. Let's move next with group node. So we added the group node, and here let's rename to group front. Group type we keep primitives. Let's disable the base group and we'll enable binormals. We need to group this part, so let's again set to 18, and we here let's set 0, and here 1. So we will use this vector direction now. So let's delete again the faces which is outside of this group. So we'll add delete node. let's select the group front and delete non-selected. So we deleted this part of the geometry. Now we'll use the PolyExtrude to inset this face. So for the distance, let's set 0.02. For the inset, let's set 0.05. Let's deactivate the output side. Now we will add again PolyExtrude and we'll add thickness for this element. And after that, we will use this element for cutting our geometry. So let's set distance 0.1. Okay. Output back. We'll activate the output back. So we see here we have the intersection. So let's add the Boolean node. In the second input, we will connect our PolyExtrude. In the first input, our base shape. Here we leave same parameters. Now let's add the null node and we'll rename to camera body. Here we have the glass frame. Let's add the merge node to combine these two elements. Let's try to change the parameter from the poly bevel 1. Okay, let's move next. Let's create the lens here in the front part of the camera. So we will move to Boolean, and here let's add delete node, and we'll simply select extrude front, delete non-selected to isolate only the glass from camera. Let's create a subnetwork from this and we'll move inside. Let's move the output node here and we'll continue from delete node. So we isolated the target geometry. Next we will create first inset. So next we will shrink the face inward and we'll push slightly back into the camera body, and also we'll create some new groups. So let's add the PolyExtrude node and we'll set the distance parameter to -0.3 and inset let's set to 0.043. Okay, now let's activate the front group and let's add the split node. So we'll isolate this part of the geometry. So let's set extrude front. Next we'll create another inset and extrusion. So let's add the PolyExtrude node. Let's set the distance -0.08. So we have the bigger distance. Now inset let's set to 0.16 and let's create again front group and let's add value 2. Now next we'll transform this rectangular shape in a circular shape. So let's add the circle from edges, and here let's select front 2 group. Next, let's add PolyExtrude node and we'll create an inset here on the margin. So let's select again extrude front 2 group, and for distance let's set -0.3, -0.03. And for inset let's set 0.04. let's group again the front and let's rename to front 3. Now we will split this front group. So let's add the split node and here we'll select extrude front 3. Let's build the final circular detail. Let's add the PolyExtrude For distance, let's set minus 0.01. For the inset, we'll add the value 0.01. And for the front group, let's set front group 4. Let's split and here we'll select front group 4. Next, let's add a PolyExtrude node. So this is the final extrusion for this face, and we'll put outward this polygon. So for distance, let's set 0.1. Now we will create and place a procedural cap. So this is the lens for our camera. So let's add a sphere. For rows, let's set 15, 24 columns, and let's polygon mesh. Radius, let's keep 0.5. Let's add the clip node. And for clip, so here we have direction for vector X. We'll set here 1, and let's keep these settings now. And let's add the MatchSize node. And we'll match the size of our lens to this object. We'll connect here, and let's set scale to fit. And we'll disable uniform fit. Now we'll add the merge node, and let's collect all these outputs, this, and we'll connect here. So here we have the lens for our camera. Let's move outside. Let's rename to lens, and we'll add a null node, cam lens. So we have here our lens. Let's move to the next element, and we'll create the ventilation element. So we will start with isolating the bottom panel. So let's add the delete node. So from here, from polyfill node, we'll add the delete, and let's enable binormal. Let's set -1, and here 10, and here let's set 0. For operation, we'll select delete non-selected, and I will move here. Let's create now a body for ventilation element. So let's add the box node. For uniform scale, let's set 0.6. Now we'll create a group. Let's add the group node and disable base group, and we'll enable keep binormals. Here let's set 50, here 0, and here -1. Now let's add transform node. Here let's add group 5. So for translate Y, we'll set 0.5. For translate X, -0.2, and scale X 2. Now let's add delete node. Let's select group 5 and delete selected. Now let's add the transform node, and we will rotate this for x-axis 118 degree. Okay, now we have the body for ventilation practically done, but let's move in the right place. So let's add MatchSize. Here we'll connect our ventilation, and here the bottom panel. So here for MatchSize, let's set justify I maximum. Here let's uncheck and scale X and scale Y, and let's leave just scale Z, and let's move this ventilation part in front. So for justify X, or for offset parameter, let's change the value to 0.9. Okay, next let's add the poly bevel, and we'll add the clean bevel to all edges. So we'll need just to set distance 0.01, and next here we'll create some lines. For this, let's add the node group, and we'll group this face. So for this we need keep binormals 10 -1 and here 0. Let's create a subnetwork from group node, and let's rename to ventilation holes. Let's dive inside. Here let's add the PolyExtrude, and we will inset this face. Let's rename first group to inset. Next here let's select inset group. For inset parameter, let's set to 0.15, and let's activate the extrude front. Next let's add another PolyExtrude. Now we will select extrude front and extrusion -0.01, and again let's activate extrude front. I'll rename it to extrude front 1. Now let's add delete node, and let's select extrude front 1 and delete non-selected. And here we will next we'll create a simple rectangular shape with same size what we have here. So let's add the MatchSize and the box node. Okay, let's connect here. Now for the box, let's set uniform scale to 0.1 and the size 0.1, and here 0.1. To match size node, let's uncheck translate, and let's activate scale to fit. Now uniform scale, let's uncheck, and also this scale Y and scale X we will deactivate. Okay, we keep this here because we'll copy to this plane. So for this, let's add a line. For parameters of this line, let's change 0 here and 1 here. Next let's add match size, and we will place the line here in the middle. And after that we'll add resample, and on these points we will copy our box. So match size, let's set the match size, and yeah, we can deactivate scale Y and scale Z, leave just the scale X activated. So next let's add the resample node, and we'll add more points because now we have only 2 points, and let's say here 0.018. Let's move next. We will group first and last point. Let's add group expression, and using point valence we will group. Okay, let's set here points, so we have grouped first and last point. Now we will delete this. Let's rename the group to delete, and let's add the delete node. Okay, we add a delete node. Let's select here delete group points, and we have deleted these points. Now let's copy our shape to these points. So let's add copy to points. Here we connect the points, here the shape, and last step we need to add the Boolean node. Here let's connect in the second input our shape, and here ventilation body, and we have this. Okay, let's leave with this parameter, and for this segment let's add null node, and we'll rename to vent part. Now let's see what we have here. Okay, looks very good. So let's move next. We will create another frame. So first, from PolyExtrude, let's add the split node, and here let's set extrude side. Now we'll add a PolyExtrude node in the first output, and we'll create an inset. First, let's deactivate output front, and for inset we'll set 0.017. Okay, again let's add the PolyExtrude, and we'll add the thickness to these frames. Okay, let's add for the distance let's set 0.0017, and in the second output let's add the delete node. Let's set face. Next step, we will add the PolyExtrude node. Let's activate the output back parameter. Let's activate the side group. Now for the distance we'll set minus 0.052. Now we'll create a solid shape that will be subtracted from a visible frame. So next let's add again PolyExtrude. Let's set extrude side for group. Here we'll add minus 0.52. Let's reverse the face orientation. Now we'll add the Boolean, and let's connect in the first input PolyExtrude 6 and reverse in the second input. And now so here we see we have the frame. So let's add the null node, and we'll rename to front frame. Let's add color. Next we'll create a chasing part of camera, and we will start by isolating a specific section of our camera body. And next, for this element we'll add the thickness. So from poly bevel 1 let's add the group node, and let's move here. So from this part of the camera, begin by selecting and cleaning up the piece of the model we intended to detail. Let's group the bottom part of this geometry using a procedural method. So let's deactivate the base group, and we'll activate the keep by normal. So for spread angle let's set to 50 degree, maybe 18 degree, and here let's set 0 and here 1, -1. Next, let's add the delete node. Here let's rename group to delete. Here let's select this group. Now we deleted the selected part. So now we'll add the PolyExtrude node, and with this node we slightly add the thickness and we'll push the faces outward slightly. Let's add the PolyExtrude. Now let's set the distance to 0.08 and we'll deactivate output side. Next, let's add the PolyExtrude node and we'll add the thickness. So for distance, let's set 0.031 and output back. Let's add the group node and we'll group this part of the geometry. So let's disable the base group and let's activate the keep by normals. Let's set spread angle for 16 and here we'll add 1, here 0. So we'll select the primitive on the new shell that are facing in the positive x direction. Now we will group only these points, and after that we'll translate it slightly. So let's add the bound node. We will use this bound node as the input for node group to group a specific points which is inside of this bound. So now we need to set this bound in the specific location and with specific size. So for this parameter here, let's set -3. Here we'll set -0.5. Here 0. So we see actually the size of this bounding box. Here let's set 0.1, here 0.1. So 0.1 we'll add to upper painting to all parameters. Now we'll add the group node. In the first input we'll connect our geometry and in the second our bounding box. Next let's activate keep bounding region and we'll set the bounding object point, and here let's set 2 points. Name let's rename to transform. Let's add the transform node. Here let's add our group transform, and for translate x let's set 0.2. So we translate just the selection. For this part we'll stop here, but we'll continue later. Here let's add the null node and let's rename to chasing camera. Now we will start to create another element and instead of create a new element from 0, we will use the base shape of our camera, and now we will start to create a primary cutter geometry. Let's add the null node. And here let's rename to cutter. Next let's add the bound node. Lower padding let's set -0.7, here 0.3 and here 0.1. For upper padding -1.7. Here let's set -0.5 and here 0.1. Next we'll add the Boolean node and we will cut this part. So let's add the Boolean node. In the first input let's connect the bound node and here let's connect the cutter node. Okay, we have this shape. Now we need to delete all geometry and keep just only this part, interior part. So for this we have here some output primitives group, and let's activate the be inside a group. Now let's delete the all geometry which is outside of this group. So here we select be inside A and delete non-selected. Now we'll add the thickness to our geometry. So let's add the PolyExtrude, and for distance we'll set the negative value. So here will be minus 0.16, and let's activate output back primitive. So we see we have the geometry outside of our camera body. So let's reverse the geometry. Let's move next. We need to group these edges, and how do that in a procedural way. So for this we need to create some groups and then promote them to edges. After that we will use group combine, and we'll be able to bevel these edges. So let's add the group node. We'll keep two primitives. Let's say here top, keep binormals, spread angle, let's say 10. Let's change the direction, here 1 and here 0. Okay, let's leave to 13. Now let's add the group promote node, and we'll group these two edges. Let's select the top, and we need to select include only elements. Okay, now we'll group this part and this part, and also we'll promote two edges. So let's add the group node. Here we will disable this, and let's enable this 20 spread angle, and here let's set 0, here 1, and let's activate include normals matching opposite side. Now let's add the group promote node, and we'll promote the, let's rename here to side, and edges, convert from auto to edges, and we'll select side. Also include elements on the boundary, and now let's add the group combine, and we'll use something like Boolean, because we'll say to give us just groups which is intersecting. So we'll select here, let's set top group is equal with side. Here we'll set intersect with top. So top is equal with side, intersection with top. So let's add the bevel node, and here we'll select the top and the distance. For distance 0.1, for divisions 7. Let's add another poly bevel node. Here let's set edges, ignore flat edges, here 0.06, here let's say 18, divisions 1. Okay, from reverse node, let's add the null. Or you can add a simple pinpoint or null node. So from here, let's add the transform node. We'll add more details to our geometry. So let's add transform. For rotate X, let's set 19, and okay, let's add the MatchSize node. Here let's set none, here minimum and here minimum. And after that we'll add here mirror node, and here let's set 0.3. okay, and scale to fit. We'll activate. Now let's add the mirror node. Let's change the direction, here 1 and here 0. And now we will add the Boolean node, and we'll create this hole here, some holes. So let's add the Boolean. We'll connect Bevel in first input. In second input we'll connect mirror node. And let's create here some new holes. So from null node let's add the transform. We'll start again from this geometry. Here let's set 19. Let's add the MatchSize. Here we connect our transform, and MatchSize in the second input will connect the null node. Okay, for MatchSize let's set here minimum, and for justify Z and justify I will set minus 0.05. Same here. Again let's add the transform node, and we'll change slightly scale. Here we'll set 0.7. And now we'll add again MatchSize to place this object in the center. MatchSize. In the first input we'll connect transform, second input we'll connect the null node. Justify X center, here none. So now it's in the center. Let's mirror this object. Let's change the direction. Here 1, here 0. And let's add another Boolean node. In the first input we connect our first Boolean, and here in the second input were our mirror node. We can see the result. Okay, let's add the null node, and we'll rename to camera element, and let's connect to merge node. Now we will return to camera chasing, and let's detail this part also. So first let's add the object merge, and here we'll drag and drop our camera element in the object 1. Okay, let's add the transform node. We'll rotate to 118 degree, and let's add the MatchSize. In the first input we'll connect the transform node, and for second input let's add the bounding. Let's add the bound node, and for lower binding let's set 0.1. Same here. Okay, let's connect in the MatchSize node. Here we'll change the justify X parameter to max, here to max, and we'll leave the justify Z. Next here let's set 0.68, here 0.05. Now let's activate scale to fit, and we'll deactivate also these two. We'll leave just the scale Y. Now let's add the Boolean node. In the first input we'll connect our transform node, and in the second let's connect the MatchSize. So we have this element. Next let's add the more details. From transform let's add the PolyExtrude. We'll set the distance to minus 0.007. We'll add the Boolean. In the second input, in the first input, we'll connect our Boolean node, and here we'll set subtract B from A. Next, let's add the merge node, and we connect our Boolean nodes here. So now we have something like that. Let's connect the cam chasing to the merge. Next, I will create a cooling element, and we'll start from PolyExtrude node. And here let's add another PolyExtrude node. Let's activate the output back, and for distance we'll set 0.06. Now let's add the group node. And in the first input we'll connect the PolyExtrude, and for the second we'll add the bound box, and let's set the lower pending and upper pending. So here for lower pending let's set 0.12, here 0.02, here same 0.02, for upper pending 0.012, and here minus 0.5, and here 0.02. Now let's connect in the second input of the group node. Here we'll select points, deactivate base group, and we'll activate the key bounding region. Here let's select bounding object. So now I have these points grouped. Now let's add the transform node. Now let's add the Boolean node. In the first input let's connect our group node. In the second we'll add the bounding box. Here let's set the lower pending to minus 0.5, here 0.3, here 0.2, for upper pending here 1, here minus 0.4, and here 0.2. Now let's create a group. Let's group the bottom side. So we'll add the group node, include by normals. We'll set to 10 here, here minus 1, and here 0. Now let's add the transform node. Let's rename group to transform, and here we'll select the transform. And for translate x we'll set minus 0.4. Now let's add the poly bevel node, and for distance let's set 0.4. and now we'll connect to our Boolean node. Okay, we have this geometry, we can control this. Now we will perform a second subtract operation. So we'll take the result from the first Boolean and we'll subtract a simple bounding box. So for this we'll need to add the bound box. So we'll add the bound node. Now we will create a second subtract operation. So we'll take the first Boolean and subtract a simple bounding box. So let's add the bound node. For lower pending we'll set minus 2.4. Here we'll set minus 0.4, and here 0.02. For upper padding, we'll set 0.2 to all parameters. Okay, now let's add the Boolean node. In the first input we'll connect the first Boolean, in the second we'll connect the our bound node. So we cut the geometry and we can select the length. Next we'll add a line. We'll place a line here. After that we'll add some points on this line and we'll copy a rectangular shape, and after that we'll add the Boolean node to create something like ventilation, and let's add the line node. We'll change the direction, here 1, here 0. Now let's add the MatchSize. We'll move line here. Let's activate scale to fit. Next, let's add the Resample node. Let's change to length parameter to 0.37. Now let's add copy to points. In the second input we'll connect the Resample, and the first we'll connect the box node. And for box, let's set the size here 0.2, here 1.6, and here 0.8. Now let's add the Boolean node, connecting the first input Boolean, and in the second copy to points. Now let's add null node, and we'll rename to cooling element, and let's connect to merge, and at the end let's add null node and we rename to camera. Let's change the color to node where we have the access to change the shape. Our procedural camera generator is complete. Congratulations on making it through to the end. I truly hope this tutorial has been valuable for you. If has, please consider like this video and subscribing to the channel for more in-depth Houdini content. If you have any question or if you build your own version, I'd love to see it. Please share the link in the comments below. Thank you for watching and keep building.